Welcome to the Nexus Unloaded podcast. This is Will Crozier.
And I'm Nikki Westcombe. We are the founders of Nexus Performance. Joining us on this wild ride is our heavyweight coaching team, ready to unleash their expertise to solve any problems in your journey to getting strong and jacked.
Through our real-world experience, we hope to break things down in a digestible, applicable, and entertaining way.
So pump up the volume and let's get into this.
Welcome back to the Nexus Unloaded podcast. We have Coach Jason from up in Townsville on board with us again today. It's been a while since you were on the podcast last.
Yeah, hey Will, hey man, how are you? I don't think we did one since last year, maybe.
We did try to film one a little bit earlier this year when we were actually up in Townsville for the APL comp up there. But as always with this podcast and its history, we have many technical difficulties, and it recorded off the off the laptop. So we kind of got half of your sound and a little bit of somebody else's sound, but like not much else static going on, and would have been not great listening for people. So yeah, rounding back to it. And today we're going to dive into some deadlift for dog stuff, some single lift stuff, and talking around how people can get the best out of their training for that, some misconceptions about single lift training. But first of all, I think, it's important that we just catch up.
Yeah.
Jace
nice,
Jace is a avid traveler. I don't know. Hey, you haven't been overseas much, hey?
No, I've been a heat. Probably not since COVID, but definitely before COVID. Like traveled overseas a fair bit. Obviously holidaying, and then also with work with the Australian Army while I was still in. I think the only overseas trip I've done post COVID was Bali last year for a couple of weeks, just to go and have a surf, a holiday, and get the back inked up. Yeah.
Because I've always known you to be more of a like Australia, like a little always off on a trip to, I don't know, some random little beach town, whether it's up north there across the top or whether it's down the coast, down the east coast. You always seem to be just, in some random location, just hanging out at the beach.
Best country in the world, bro. Why wouldn't we check out the beaches? That's probably my favourite. I just love pretty much the coastline, hitting the beaches up and like getting away as much as I can.
Yeah, just relaxing a bit more.
Yeah, so in the van lately, I think got away on the weekend down to Bowen, hit the beaches up. We did a bit of snorkeling, some paddle boarding.
Yeah.
Couple of weeks before that, for my birthday actually, we just went and hit Port Douglas up. Same sort of thing, just get in some swimming, hit the beach up, check out the Daintree, Mossman Gorge. I think we just missed Jordan. Jordan was up there like a day or two before. We just missed her. She was heading back from Japan, then Cairns, and then back down to Goldie.
Yeah, we went and explored Cairns for a bit. Yeah, we I was actually having a conversation in the gym just the other night. Shout out to Aiden and LK. I know they both listen to this. They're actually going to Japan very, very soon for their first like overseas holiday, and they're like obviously fucking excited about it, as you are. I've been to Japan, but I've been to it's on my list as well. But been to enough other countries, I guess. Mickey's been to a lot more, but it's I don't know. They were like obviously like Japan is very culturally different, and there's a lot of differences to Australia. But like I made the comment to them, I'm like, like sometimes when you like if you like when I went to New York or LA or some of those in more recent years, it just can like it's just another like place with big buildings with fuckloads of people. Like to me, sometimes it doesn't feel that much different to like Sydney or Melbourne or Brisbane, or even the inner parts of the Gold Coast here. And it's just like, like obviously there's different landmarks and people are a little bit different, but at the end of the day, like it's a city. And to me, like sometimes the cities just feel like cities,
Yeah, for sure.
And like, so I like your approach of just kind of getting out there and exploring and it's all right in our backyard, I guess, especially up there on the coastline.
Yeah, definitely, man. Even like down to you guys, like that, Gold Coast, Byron Bay, Tweed, like that mid-north coast of New South Wales is just unreal. I love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely try and get out there as much as I can.
Anything coming up?
Trip-wise?
No, nothing?
Not that I can think of.
Not
probably
planned. Spontaneous.
Nah, not really. Like, I know we've got a couple of trips coming up where Brizzy coaching or Adelaide for comps. Yeah, like work-wise trips, but nothing really planned at the moment. Usually, like, definitely try and get away, like, at least one day every weekend, whether it's in the van or the Jeep, just get away, hit the beach or some waterfalls, which is pretty good up here. We can just do that, like travel an hour or two each way. It's unreal. But yeah, nothing too big planned at the moment.
Yeah, fair. Same for me, surprisingly. Got a bit going on here.
Yeah, for sure.
Which we've talked about every episode for the last few, but yeah, Mickey's well and truly in the strike zone now, as I call it. So like, yeah, we're past that 38 week mark, which is, could happen at any day. Just got called into the doctors the other day. Actually, the GP was like, "Oh yeah, I want you to go see the just to check on this, on that." It turned out to be absolutely nothing to worry about at all. But that was the first, like, hey, go to the hospital. Lucky you did, because it's there's a lot going on at the hospital. But yeah, yeah, right there could happen right now. If I get pulled out of this podcast and I just run, you know why. If this podcast just suddenly ends, people know why. Yeah, cool. Well, how's training going?
Training probably the last 2-3 weeks has been going unreal. So six months post-op from the shoulder reco and the surgery.
Yep. Big shoulder for people who are unaware. What happened there? Yeah, to give the people the details of that, because it's not just like we fixed a tendon.
Yeah, no, it was a torn bicep tendon, a few tears in the labrum, a fair few bit of damage through the rotator cuff, shitload of arthritis.
Yeah.
And yeah, just pretty much an all-round fuck shoulder.
Yeah.
But now it's back better than it has been ever. So yeah, I'm real happy with it.
More an accumulation of things over years and kind of letting them maybe build up, and it just got to a point where it had enough. And I mean, like, you're pretty good at gritting your teeth and working through things, but at that point, really starting to impact what you could and couldn't do. Yeah,
it was more like the instability of it was being the real big issue. Like, from that 2023 nationals and then trying to train past that, it was just an unstable shoulder. But I think like you said, it was a lot of chronic stuff, but on top of that, a few acute things happened to cause that. But had the op, and 3 months post the op, all the work that the surgeon done had fully healed up, and then he was happy for me pretty much post rehab just to strengthen it up as much as I can, and I guess that's where I'm at now.
Fun.
Yeah, so 6 months, strengthen it up, and then sort of almost back into like SBD sort of programming, which is actually what I've been running at the moment. I've been doing about 3 SBD days a week, and then like an accessory day for this first block, sort of getting right back into it, and it's working really well.
By SBD days, you mean squat, bench, or deadlift, not all the lifts, just fucking going hard out.
No, all of them in a day, just like,
really.
Yeah, I thought I'd try it because we hear a lot about it, and
but
like a lot of coaches do it and program it. Yeah, variations. So on my squat day, so squat was heavy safety bar squat.
Yeah.
Then it was barbell RDL, and then close grip bench for my bench variation. And then one or two accessories with that. And then yesterday was my bench day, so it was comp bench for some heavy triples. Then my squat variation was a Zercher squat, and then just hit some pause deadlifts for my deadlift variation, and then did some upper body accessories, and then
a bit of a mix up of things, not just straight like comp, squat, comp, bench, comp. Because we did a podcast a while back on like higher frequency and reasons not to do it. So it's interesting that you're doing that. But when it's variations, very different.
Yeah, so different variations, and obviously not pushing them all to the same intensity every session. Yeah. So, like hitting that main one, whether it be the squat, the bench, or the deadlift with the comp lift, and then variations and different intensities of volumes for the other two within the session. And yeah, so far it's progressing really well. Definitely feel a little more fatigued from those sessions compared to our usual program 4-day split for powerlifting, but yeah, I'm actually liking it. It's something different for a change, and definitely seeing the results strength-wise.
Well, I'm sure you've seen the results skill-wise as well. You know, just doing them more frequently, just getting a little bit more familiar after quite a long time off without the shoulder. You're pretty much stuck to essentially kind of like bodybuilding stuff for a fair chunk of time. That like with the shoulder, obviously you couldn't bench, like you couldn't do much squatting. Yeah. Well, like they're very very limited on what you could do. So had to veer away from them massively. So to bring him back, just trying to build that skill on him again. Yeah,
build the skill up and just like, especially with the bench, getting that in that position again and getting tight, getting the leg drive up, and then same with the squats. I think it's took me a good month to just get the shoulder in a position where I could get under a high bar and add weight to it, and then really like hold down and get tight in that position. But they're all progressing really well at the moment. Like I think I hit a 200 kilo single on bench the other week, which is the first time I've done that since the injury. So I was pretty stoked with that.
Yeah. And it's, this is a great kind of show of like sometimes approaches that we maybe wouldn't typically use or that are a little bit different can really suit different situations, unique situations like this where, it's not like when we give out general advice, whether it's on this podcast or on Instagram or whatever, we're talking about a very specific situation. We're usually just talking like real general, people who are generally healthy and have general, like very typical weaknesses or deficiencies that we're trying to bring up. And so this is an example of, hey, haven't done these in a while, trying to bring these back. The shoulders, not everybody's got I don't think anybody's got the same shoulder that you do. And the one other thing that we didn't mention in that SBD podcast actually was sometimes, and this isn't a you thing, but I always find that sometimes whether if it's all three lifts or just one lift, when we're pushing like a little bit higher frequency with it, it'll work better for people who on their accessory lifts aren't necessarily going like super hard or can't go super hard on them, or just are fucking over them. Like if for you maybe have done for a bit, because like it's it's easier to load up a set of 6 or less reps sort of bench press or bench press variation, and it's a little easier to predict numbers from a coaching perspective, or even get more accurate from an RPE perspective than it is for somebody to do like some dumbbell presses or some chest presses on a machine or something like that. Like not a lot of people will really push that overly hard, and so like it can be a really useful way to get in actually more just like good training, quote unquote. So obviously that's not you either, but just something that just popped into my head to send.
Yeah, I think, and it's definitely a good tool, like you said, to use for those situations as well, where you can get that trainer volume in, and guys and girls will still think they're doing like comp lift work with just that different variation.
Yeah, still, it's a lot easier to transfer back. On that note, let's jump into Deadlift for Dogs. So I just want to recap on what it is and why we do it. We do it in both locations, both at the Townsville gym and here on the Gold Coast. And we will be doing it in Melbourne ASAP as well. It'll be running alongside, so it'll be the same sort of weekend across all three gyms. when it's all up and running. I don't think we're going to squeeze it in this year just because it doesn't. It's still like, well, yeah, Melbourne at the moment is still a fucking empty box. This week it'll have flooring. Next week it'll have gym equipment, but it's still, we're kind of fine to be fully set up anyway. But yeah, we run it across all the gyms, or will run it across all the gyms. It is our, as the name suggests, deadlift only competition. So it's ran like a powerlifting comp with 3 attempts building up to a max deadlift. That's the only lift of the day. And we're a little bit more lax on the rules than a typical powerlifting comp. A typical powerlifting comp, you have to wear a soft suit. You're not allowed to wear straps. There's a lot of rules. And it's not that we're just going to let people get away with dropping their deadlifts or not locking out their deadlifts. They still have to complete the deadlift. But like, I'm more than happy for people to wear straps, wear a fucking clown outfit if you want, whatever, like floats your boat on that front. I'll allow for a little bit more hitching or ramping, a little bit more, if you can get it up, like more strongman-y rules, and just really just trying to get people lifting heavy that maybe aren't powerlifters and don't know the rules and don't train to that standard and stuff, but they want to come in and have some fun and just hit a big, heavy deadlift.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's like the big point of it, eh? We would just want to get people in, have fun, lift some big deadlifts, like especially if they're new to powerlifting or have never done powerlifting before. It's a perfect way to start or like get involved. And like it's all for charity and just come in, rip up some deadlifts. Rules are and equipment a little more relaxed, so there's not as much pressure, but yeah, I think the one that I did last year up here and then the second one that I watched down there was the first time I was involved with it, and it's probably some of the funnest powerlifting days that I've been involved with, like the crowd wise and everyone getting behind each other. It's totally unreal.
Yeah, the charity aspect is big, right? Because, again, even if it's just a single lift comp, like let's just say it's a deadlift, just a deadlift comp at a gym that's not for charity. That's just a normal comp. There's still some, I guess, pressure to perform. Like you want to win, and I'm not saying that people don't want to win deadlift for dogs. Like, please be my guest to be competitive and fucking out deadlift your mates, please. But if you're not that person and you're just coming in to have a fucking good time and you're not really a competitive person, you just want to hit some heavy deadlifts in a zone where it's safe to do so, and have a goal to work towards, even it just it ticks that box, and there's absolutely no pressure, because absolute worst case scenario, even if you come dead last, you've still raised money for charity. Like you've still done a good thing. There's still going to be benefits to it, and so like it just takes that pressure out even more and gives people even less reasons to not do it.
Yeah, and in line with that, up here, I've definitely seen it with 3 or 4 people that have become members. They just signed up to do the Deadlift for Dogs because it was a charity event. They might have come in and done 1 or 2 casual sessions in the gym to see what it was all about. Then they've done Deadlift for Dogs, and then we see them the next week. They've had so much fun. They want to become members, and the next minute they're signing up for their first 3 lift comp. So like to see them progress that way and get more confident with their training and get on board with powerlifting is unreal.
Yeah, and like that's a big chunk of the people, I would say, in both locations that do Deadlift for Dogs. They're either first comp experience or people that aren't super experienced powerlifters or strongmen or whatever, but just kind of like using it as a bit of a gateway. There are a handful of experienced powerlifters that jump in too, and I love that. I'm all for that. And then to step outside that a little bit, like the other category of people that might choose to do a single lift comp, just in general, not even just Deadlift for Dogs, but just in general, would be people that can't do the other lifts. You know what I mean? Like if you have blown up knees, and for some reason, you or a bad hip or something that really like limits you from getting to depth on a squat, and you're just like you're physically unable to do so, you're not going to ever be able to do a 3 lift. I would be, if somebody is in that situation, I would be somewhat skeptical, and I'll be like, oh, I reckon I could get you there. But like, let's just say the people that like actually just fucking can't, or they just hate squatting, or bench, like their shoulders are fucked and they can't do it on that. Again, great opportunity to not have to do those and still be able to have something to work towards, and or be competitive for, tick that bit of a training box, because not everybody loves like just going to the gym to, I don't know, get bigger or look better or whatever. Like not everybody has that sort of. They need something to work towards. They need something to like go, I'm going to hit a 100 kilo deadlift or 200 or 300 kilo deadlift, like something to work towards, and a bit of a time limit on it to make that happen. A bit of pressure always helps.
Yeah, I think me and you are exactly like that. Like we both know we
Absolutely.
always train better and work better when we have that goal of a comp coming up. And then if we don't, we still train and we still put in the effort and we still go through our training blocks, but it's definitely not as intense or as enjoyable as when we've picked out a comp, locked in the registration, and we have the numbers we're aiming for. Then we know, like,
not at all.
We're pretty much dialed in.
And it's the same with, I don't think people, even if they don't feel like they're like that, most people are like that. As in, like, it's the whole reason why, like, a 12-week fat loss challenge is so successful, is because if I just said to you, hey, man, your goal's fat loss, let's start a diet. A lot of people are like, I don't know, like, there's no time limit to it. There's nothing to it. Like, they find it really hard to get started, and even when they do get started, they're kind of like already finding excuses to stop it.
And then I think that's where you need those intermediate timelines and those short-term goals, like, and then build that long-term goal on that.
Yeah. So, like, whether it's a 4-week challenge or a 6-week challenge or a 12-week challenge, like all these things that gyms run, they're massively successful, because people will go like, oh yeah, fuck, all right, 12 weeks to get lean or to lose fat or to get strong, or what, like, typically it's physique based, but like they're hugely successful for gyms for that reason. They're motivating, because you can lock in for 12 weeks and go like, this is what I'm aiming for, and push towards it. Or even in a workspace kind of mindset, like a lot of people go like, I'm going to get this assignment or this job done by the end of the month, sort of thing, and find it way fucking easier to have that sort of deadline than to go like, oh yeah, I'll get that job done at some point,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I don't think anybody out there is dissimilar to that. even though people don't love to, they maybe won't say they're competitive, but I think everybody like benefits from a set timeline when it comes to these goals. There are a couple of myths with single lifts that we wanted to go through a little bit, just around the programming side of it that I thought would be good to cover. So if we keep on the topic of like deadlift only, but it could be bench only, it could be squat only, it could be whatever. But like more of a single lift focus.
Have you ever seen a squat only?
I don't, not really. No, there's not squat only competitions. And I've never met a person that would be like, I don't know. I just there are a few people who love the squat.
I'd honestly probably love a squat only.
Yeah?
Yeah, I reckon.
That's the next event. It's on. I think it's because also like squats are the most like full body. So chances are, like, if we go back to that injury example as well, like if you have blown knees or you can still probably deadlift. If you have blown up shoulders and you can't bench, you can still deadlift. Like a lot of people can still deadlift because it's in a by your side static position at the shoulder, like it's in a very stable position. Whereas I don't think there are many people who can squat really well
without doing the other two,
but can't deadlift or can't bench. You know what I mean? That just doesn't really make so. I think that's more so the reason, as well as because a lot of people just don't love squatting. But I know that people will hit me up and say, say that they're an exception to that if I do say that. But yeah, single lift programming, I think a lot of people get in their heads like, oh, like, you know, if I do this single lift comp, what's the program look like for that? And they have this picture in their mind of like, oh, if I'm doing a deadlift only comp, I am going to like hyper focus on deadlifts. Like every day is going to be deadlifting, or maybe like I'm only going to be doing deadlifting or and doing fuck all else. I don't know. Like people think that like that's the only lift they're going to be trying to get stronger, and the rest of it's semi irrelevant or semi kind of like less important or whatever. But like we've been through 100 times on this podcast in terms of just like general programming principles, we're always looking at people first, like the human level and how to make them just a better human, healthier human. And then we're looking at them as an athlete and looking at their attributes, whether it's endurance, slow strength, power, etc. Like all the different human attributes across the board that make up like athleticism in general. And then they're a powerlifter on top of that. And then in this case, a single lifter on top of that. So we're always looking at, okay, like our goal for this competition might be a deadlift only, which is very, very specific and honestly not hugely time consuming or even like recovery consuming, I guess, or if we want to like frame it like that you've got a lot more gas in the tank to burn over a week's training after you've done your deadlifts, unless you, like I said, are just doing it every day or something crazy, which we could go into, I guess, but like I really don't think anybody's going to think that's a good idea. But yeah, when I'm writing a deadlift or a single lift program, I'm definitely not thinking that way. I'm definitely still thinking, how can I make this guy or girl a better human and a better athlete, and how can I bring up other weaknesses. I actually think personally, when I've run deadlift only blocks, it's a really good chance for me to bring up weaknesses across the board at the shoulders or at the the upper body in general. Like my programming is typically 3 lift based, like powerlifting based. So my back work and my like direct shoulder work, maybe, and my direct arm work, like I don't know, they're lower priority than my benching muscles, like directly focusing on them. Like I don't definitely give those other ones quite as much love, So if I'm doing a deadlift only prep, I'm going like, oh fuck it, you know what? Like since I'm not benching, like I'm going to cut out a little bit more of that like direct work that I'm always doing, and I'm going to focus on that shit that I never get to do because I don't need to do it at this point. And same with my legs, like I'm not doing heavy ass squats. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to do some really removed variations of squats, or some like really direct, like more bodybuilding, like, I don't know, calf work or something that like I really don't do a lot of in my typical powerlifting blocks. Yeah, I don't know. Is that in line with your thoughts on that? Is that,
definitely.
Do you have any different things to add in there?
Maybe a few, but definitely always sort of in line with that. Like I won't drop off the other 2 lifts like totally. I always keep some variation in so they can still build and work on them. And like you said, it's definitely a good time where you can hit weaknesses in those other lifts or other areas and build those up.
Yeah, I was focusing on muscle groups then, but like it could be other areas, as in like bringing up cardio, or like now because your recoveries, you've got a bit more recovery up your sleeve because you're only doing deadlifts, you're not doing heavy squats, you're not doing heavy bench. Potentially, you could be. So you might want to bring up your cardio. So it's a really good time to
a bit more conditioning.
To add that in. But yeah, when you've done single lift comps, is that going with where you were before?
Yeah, so like definitely, like obviously it's going to depend on how much we can put into that single lift and where we take that away from other areas. But we still want to maintain, like depends if they're a power lifter or what other sport they're playing. We still need to maintain that strength specific work for those other areas. So if we're taking some of that basket to put into the deadlifts, it's got to come from somewhere. Like we've got to look at that overall fatigue factor over the week for them.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point because one of Kiva's clients in the Gold Coast that's doing Deadlift for Dogs coming up, he is also doing a 3-lift comp. I think it's 2 or 3 weeks after Deadlift for Dogs, and we've talked about this a little bit as well with Kiva. We're always doing mentoring within the team and working out solutions to unique situations like this. Yeah, he's doing a 3-lift 2-3 weeks after it. And so it's not something where we can go like, let's just completely fuck off bench and get rid of squats. And then, after Deadlift for Dogs, we'll bring him back in because, you literally have 2 weeks. Like, that's just not going to work. However, yeah, we can shift the tension. We can definitely go like, we're going to shift towards deadlifts. We're going to put a little bit more effort and focus, intensity, volume, whatever, into that. And then just keep them, like you kind of said there, like on the back burner a little bit, like just keep enough squatting and benching in that it still remains, a skill. Like it doesn't lose, you don't lose confidence in it. They don't feel like they have to rebuild it. And then, really ramp it up in those last few weeks after Deadlift for Dogs. Or, the other thing is, like, every time we go into a 3-lift comp, like, I don't know, like whenever you've done a 3-lift comp, you're not thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to PB my deadlift, but I'm going to, let my squats and bench go to shit. You're always looking to, well, I hope you're always looking to fucking push them all and PB them all. So like it realistically doesn't have to be too dissimilar to a normal prep either.
No. And I actually like going into a single lift comp that way, especially if you've got a 3-lift, like, that month, within that month or 6 weeks afterwards, like it's almost like you're just going to peak that lift a little bit quicker and then just maintain it while you bring those other 2 up to that peak. So you're not really dropping anything off. You're just pushing that one lift that bit harder, a bit quicker, and just holding those other 2 back while you put your effort and time into that single lift.
Yeah. So like a way I always will sometimes explain it to people is like during an off season where they're focused more on like general workload. Like I'm focused more on like the average intensity and the average volume and bringing up their legs and their weaknesses for their squat and bench and deadlift. And that's how I kind of approach all the lifts. So I just wanted to get generally better at them. And I'm not really worried about hitting top sets and particular numbers at that time period. And then when we get to a comp prep, that's where I'll usually flip the script and go like, we're going to add in top sets and we're going to really focus on coming in and really charging at these top sets and really looking at the numbers, chasing some numbers a little bit more. And in this context, as to what you said, that's you're kind of like keeping squats and bench in that off-season-y sort of mode that I just kind of framed. So keeping them less focused on numbers and more just focused on general work and getting better. And you're peaking and you're doing the more peaking programming approach to the deadlift where like that's where maybe you're hitting top set and you're hitting big doubles and singles and really like putting all of your recovery and fatigue into that basket. And mentally as well, like when you're walking into squats and bench, maybe you're a little bit more just like, I'm going to get a heap of work here done as opposed to like, I'm going to work up to this really big fucking number sort of mindset that we have in prep. And so like there's no reason why you can't run it like that, where those 2 lifts are variations and the set rep scheme is set up so that it's more about general work, whether straight sets, ramping sets, stuff like that, rather than top sets and down sets in a peak and just kind of program them in that slightly different way. Like it's not something that I've actually thought about, but it's definitely something that we've done lots of times now that you say it like that. let's be real. The fitness industry is flooded with coaching programs, all using the same buzzwords: comprehensive, tailored, individualized, super confusing. What does that actually mean for you? At Nexus Performance, we cut through the shit. We take the time to actually understand your struggles, what drives you, what's holding you back, and then we coach you through it. With our online strength coaching, you're not getting a templated program. Your training program is built around you. You're also going to be getting one-on-one consult calls, Loom video feedback, direct messaging for coaching cues and questions, so you know exactly what to do and how to do it. If that sounds like the support that you've been looking for, let's make it happen. Visit our website today for weekly or monthly programming support.
For sure. And then the other thing we could do with it as well is just like have those undulating weeks where we'll push that bench and squat one week, and then the next week we'll push deads and back that off. So we're continually undulating if you wanted to go that way into a prep for a single lift and then a 3-lift comp. So you're not getting that systemic fatigue and pushing all 3 in the week.
Yeah, exactly. Just slightly different focuses at slightly different times, I guess.
I think the other thing, like we talked about bringing up the weaknesses in the lifts we weren't training for, but I think a single lift is also an awesome opportunity to hammer any weaknesses you have in that lift, like so we can hit that comp lift, but then on those other days we're going to work on it, we can hit the variations that are going to just dial in and really work on those weaknesses we got in that lift.
Yeah, for sure. So you're talking like in regards to deadlift for dogs, for example, like having your primary day as a comp, double, triple, whatever it is, like a heavy exposure that day, and then on the other day doing like a like whether it's a stiff leg deadlift to try and bring up more general work through your hips, or whether it's a positioning drill where you're doing like a pause deadlift or a tempo deadlift or a whatever other deadlift, like something that's just going to like enhance that other day. Yeah,
definitely. And that'll depend on that person's, I guess, weak point or their weakness in that lift or what they need to work on. But I don't know, with like deadlift and deadlift for dogs, like I know for me, my deadlift's my worst lift. And when I prepped for deadlift for dogs, we just hammered pause deadlifts because that's where my deadlift breaks down. Yeah. And at the start, it was fucking horrible. But then when we got towards and built it up more and more and more as we continued through the prep for deadlift for dogs, was actually, I could see the numbers improve and the position improve and the strength improve throughout, not just the pause deadlift, but then into that comp deadlift. So I think that's an important factor, is like you can build that weakness or that failing point up, and it's a perfect time to do that while you're concentrating on that single lift.
Yeah, while you're not smashing yourself with the other stuff.
Yeah.
And that's a good example of like where individualization as a principle comes into it, right? Like, we also for this competition for Deadlift for Dogs have a templated program that's available for just if people want to do Deadlift for Dogs but they have no idea how to do single lift programming, can just purchase that program as a template. It's percentage based, and you just plug in, or you tell us your 1RMs, and we'll plug it in, and you'll just hit that. And it's got one easier day, one easier deadlift day, and one harder deadlift day for each week, and that's over 15 weeks. So in that example, like when I was writing that, it just has this year's iteration of it just has two comp deadlifts. Like I said, just one that's a bit easier and one that's a hard day. So one that's meant to like just reinforce technique and be a bit speedier and build confidence. And then the one day a week that's like heavy, because if you did 2 heavy days, it might be a little rough at a certain point anyway, when things start getting heavy. And that's because it wasn't written for a person. It was written for anyone, right? So I went into writing that thinking, okay, I'm going to write this. The person that I have in mind for it kind of like somewhat knows how to deadlift. They've got the fundamentals down. If not, we've got coaching services in the gym that can help them get to that point. Just like, so it's not really focused on a I guess, a particular weakness. It's just focused on just building deadlift and accumulating workload over the weeks and eventually peaking at deadlift on that heavy day. But in your case there, with what you did, we're replacing that secondary day for a specific weakness. So like we can tweak that program to match people's weaknesses if we have the opportunity to do so, or if you have the opportunity to do so. If you're writing a program, like you know your weaknesses or you know your breakdowns, and if you don't, message us. But like there's plenty of reason why that secondary day or whatever can be a variation, like you said.
I think like the individualization is a good point you brought up, because if someone's got a real good technical looking deadlift, like they can handle a lot more intensity and volume through their deadlift sessions or over the week compared to someone who has, I wouldn't say poor technique, but not as technical and just sort of has to muscle and grind it up with a lot of back work as well, and not as much glute and hamstrings. Like that'll bash them up a lot more. So we sort of have to look at it that way too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that definitely know a few people like that. So like when it comes to programming their deadlift, they're going to do a little bit less work and they're maybe going to plug in their workload a little bit more on the other lifts. And so a single lift program, that's actually a good point, in that a single lift program doesn't necessarily mean that, we have to be doing shit tons of volume or whatever, like way more workload through that lift, versus when it's a 3-lift competition. It means that, like you said, we got more recovery room, so we have that opportunity if we want to, but sometimes people just don't need it. Like they just respond to X amount of work, and adding heaps more in isn't necessarily going to bring like a whole lot more to the table. Another note that I've got here is, like, when I think about my biggest comps that I've done, is that they're not only physically draining from a physically fatigued perspective, they are, but like the mental side of it. And one of the things that I think a lot of people don't understand for when you're prepping for a big comp, and really trying to push all your lifts, is if if I'm doing like a typical like 4-day powerlifting program where I'm doing squat and deadlift, primarily like heavy squat and deadlift once a week, and let's just say I've got one heavy bench and one light bench, to make it nice and easy. 3 out of those 4 days are like I have to bring my A game, like I'm rocking up to the gym going like I'm fucking here for it, like I've eaten all my food and I've mentally sort of prepared myself, and I'm coming in to run through walls that day, like, and it's mentally draining, like it's not like I can just rock up like half-assed those sessions and kind of be like, oh yeah, I'll just fucking get through this session, she'll be right. There's only one really session a week that you could maybe get away with that a little bit, like otherwise you're just going to be failing lifts compared to normal training, quote unquote, like not heavy, like not prep training. And so I think there's a lot of like mental sacrifice, like a lot of mental burden coming from like a big 3-lift heavy training peaking block. With a single lift comp, there's a little bit less of that. I feel like the mental, you can really like kind of save yourself for that 1 or maybe 2 days a week. And the other days, like I said, you can focus more on just like workload and just getting some hard sets in, but not particularly like scary or like super heavy hard sets in just a pure weight sense. And to me, that's a lot less scary. I don't know about you, but like if I'm walking in and I'm hitting like a heavy single that's like fucking heavy, and if I slightly misgroove that thing, or I'm just not 100% mentally on, like I'm probably just not going to be able to do it and I'm going to fail it. Whereas if I'm doing like a hardish, tough set of 5 or whatever, like even if I'm feeling a little distracted and like I didn't sleep that well the night before and I'm a little bit off, I can probably get in and hit. I can probably do it. It'll just be slightly harder than if I was 100%
for sure.
on. So,
and you feel that, like you said, that mental side, that mental fatigue, especially when you get to like 4 weeks out from 4 weeks and closer out from a 3-lift comp that you've been prepping for, like that mental fatigue is just setting in, and it's how you manage that and bring that A game for those 3 or 4 days a week.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Like I always feel like, yeah, I look back on those preps and it was like, yeah, I was rocking up to most sessions just like, holy shit. And I think single lifts are just such a good opportunity to not have that much pressure. So if you have like, if you're in a super busy part of your life, or you're, you can't dedicate your recovery fully to the gym, and you can't always have your perfect food, and life doesn't really allow for that right now. I think a single lift comp like really makes sense in terms of like how much you can give it. Like I can nearly guarantee you'll get some really good gains on a single lift. Whereas if somebody had that approach and didn't maybe have their life fully set up and said, I want to go and compete at nationals and be, the best in the country sort of thing, I'd be like, oh, look, I just don't know, because there are other people who are, 20 years old with no responsibilities who can give every fucking drip of their energy to lifting. Like you just can't do that. So like, I feel like single lifts are, just a good way for those people to get into it. You know what I mean? To make gains.
Then in line with that as well, like with a triple lift, we probably look at a 16, 14, 12 week prep sort of minimum. Whereas a single lift, we can probably dial them in from like a minimum of like 6 to 5 weeks if they needed to.
Yeah. Do you have like with your lifters, do you have a point where you are, I don't know how to say this, but like telling them to pull their head in a little bit, like I always call it like sacrifices, like, hey, like you need to be starting to make the hard choices now. Like if there's social events on, like whether it's a wedding or just a piss up with the boys or whatever, you have to be asking yourself, like from this point onward, like, whether it's really something you need to be doing, or whether like how much the competition means to you, maybe. Like I have to have that conversation with people at some point, and most people are completely fine for it because we've discussed their goals and are on the same page. But I don't know.
I think with the crew that I sort of coach up here and online, they pretty much make that decision themselves. Hey, it's not something that I really have to pick up. Like, I know most of the ones like that are the sort of that high level competitive with powerlifting, they're past that stage of their life, so they're fine making that sacrifice, and it's not even something that I have to bring up. And then on the other spectrum, it's the juniors, so they don't even need to worry about that. They're just like, they just come in, hook in and train and go compete when they compete. Like,
well, especially when you're talking about the juniors, you're talking about, well, there are definitely powerlifting juniors as well. And they're always like super locked into it. But like, with the rowers and some of the S&C stuff that you guys got going up on there, they're doing that. Their schedules are pretty hectic as well. So I don't think they even have time to fucking go out and be hooligans.
No, and they're at that age group where they pretty much can't.
Yeah. Cool. Did you want to add anything else on for single lift talk? Or are you pretty happy with that?
Probably we did touch on deadlift a lot. I think, like we said, like there's probably not as much exposure of volume intensity we can put in to deadlifts over the week. Compared to like a bench only, where a bench only, like we can recover from that a lot better. There's a lot less systemic fatigue over the week from that. And you can, I don't know, we're prepped for even 3-lift comps. Some of the preps we've done together, I've benched 4, 5, 6 times a week and I've been able to recover from, whereas like you can't do that with a deadlift. So I think like if they're prepping for a bench only comp, they can gradually add in a little more volume as they go through the prep and see how they recover fatigue from it.
Yeah. There's always This is always such a hard question for me when I'm mentoring people, other coaches and stuff, and we're talking about frequency with lifts, because I'm not going to sit here and say doing bench 5 times a week is necessarily better than 3 times a week, is necessarily better than 1 time a week. Like I think most people can agree that doing it a couple of times a week is probably better than once a week, but like beyond that, it starts to get a little bit sketchy in terms of just like how much benefit to like you know, like I said, ROI you're getting from it. And it's always such a hard question to answer. But yeah, you're definitely right in the bench can handle a lot more. I'm always like, especially these days, like more, I'm like, okay, like rather than asking the question of how can I get this person to do the most work as possible on their bench, or how can I get this person to do the highest frequency or the most volume or most whatever, I'm always thinking like, what do I think is like enough work for them to get really fucking good at the lift and feel super confident with the lift, and just like, and visually for me as well, like looking at it and going like, fuck, like that's a smooth bench, and they're doing, you know, 9 out of 10 reps are just like crisp as fuck, and there's one hard one every now and then there's a bit of a misgroove. So it's, you know, if they're benching them like that, then it starts to become to me like, oh, you know, should I add more in? Like, is it really going to benefit to do more bench, or maybe if I want to do more pressing volume, and I think that they can, you know, still benefit from a hypertrophy perspective from muscular work, from a, you know, rather than a bench, it might be a dumbbell press, or it might be a chest press, or it might be an overhead press, or it might be an incline, you know, like there, maybe it's a different option that's still going to grow the prime movers that I'm looking at. So it's always an interesting one. But you're right in that, yeah, if I was doing a bench only prep, it would typically be higher frequency, higher volume with that. And honestly, higher intensity as well, just higher everything. Deadlift, yeah, that you hit that return on investment quicker. Like if I said to you, we're going to do 5 sets of deadlifts a week, you're like, yeah, okay. If I say, okay, we're going to do 10 sets a week, you're like, oh, like I don't know how you would feel doing it, but I don't know how much better my deadlift would get going from 5 to 10 sets. I think that I would feel more in tune with it and better, like I might hit my starting position and my positioning in general a little, and just more confident going into the lift maybe. But I don't know how much like I would benefit from it from a numbers perspective. I don't know how much like, you know, an extra 1 RM would get up on that, or whether choosing more squats or more leg presses or more RDLs would be a better solution potentially.
Yeah, for sure. And we've talked about before, like once someone's technique is looking smooth and as dialed in as we can get it on bench press, the next best thing that's going to improve that lift is packing slabs on their pecs, no doubt.
Yeah, pecs, shoulders, triceps.
Yeah, and then with the fatigue thing, I think, like you said, like then it becomes individualized. Like if we look at like smaller male, smaller female lifters, they can handle that top end, higher intensity volume and frequency a lot better than the bigger lifters. And that's the same with deadlift as well, not only bench.
Yeah. Yeah, more volume, more intensity, more bit of everything for sure. And it's not just down to muscle size, it's just like their strength and everything as well. How good their shoulders are for you. You know, like I think we would hit the ROI these days. Compared, you said before that you're benching, we benched heaps before, like frequency, volume, all of it.
Yeah.
These days, post shoulder, I know you said it's feeling better now, but I still don't know how confident you'd be if I said, "Hey, let's like start benching 5 times a week or some shit."
Yeah, I definitely. Well, I think I've got 2 to 3 at the moment.
Hesitant.
Yeah. But I know when we're programmed previously, like we've got massive benefits from 2 times a week, and we got massive benefits from 5 and everything in between. At the moment, it's sitting at about 3 times a week, and it's gone through the roof. So, and do I need to push it more? No. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, is it worth that risk of maybe pissing it off or undoing some of the good that came from the surgery or whatever like that? Anyway, we've wandered left of field a little bit here, but That's the way this podcast always goes. No, as far as deadlift for dogs, I think, and single lifts, I think it's honestly, I think it's a good spot to like wrap it up. I think I've covered off all the points or we've both covered off all the points that I wanted to get through. Some of the myths and misconceptions, but also just what deadlift for dogs is and what we're trying to achieve with it. I have no doubt in my mind that this year we'll smash that 10 grand donated goal that we're going for again. And then next year when Melbourne comes to the party, I reckon bump that up to, I want to call it now, and even though I absolutely shouldn't be calling it now, but I reckon we could get like 15 next year when we're peaking for Melbourne. Yeah,
definitely pushing it. And then we'll have awesome. that new single lift comp next year as well.
What's that?
Squats for salamanders.
Salamanders. Yeah, your favorite. Yeah, they really they need support. Absolutely.
Yeah, single lift squats for salamanders. Let's bring it on.
Nah, I reckon 3 people will do that. You won't catch me doing that. I'll sit on the sidelines. All right, let's leave it there. If anybody has any questions, if anybody wants to still sign up for Deadlift for Dogs, we're still 12-ish weeks out, maybe a little bit more.
Yep.
So still plenty of time to prep, still plenty of time to sign up. There's still lots of spots in both locations. I think
we had a few more this week sign up.
Same for us. So I've no doubt that they will sell out. So if you're interested, or whether you just want more information, or whatever, shoot a message to either the Nexus Performance Gold Coast page or to the Townsville page, and we will be able to help you out with how you get involved, or
if you want to jump on and do the Deadlift for Dogs program online with us, get on and do that.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. We'll leave it there. Thanks for coming on again, and we'll talk again soon.